Welcome back to Fantastic Dizzy. Sorry to leave you all on a cliffhanger last time, but I couldn't resist, and now it's time for Bubble Dizzy 2.0. Take it away, Volk.
Yes, it is Bubble Dizzy 2.0 because Bubble Dizzy was an arcade game originally released in November in 1990. The premise was that Dizzy was trying to find some pearls for his girlfriend and finds himself on an abandoned ship. However, it's not as abandoned as it seems because Blackheart the pirate was actually the owner of the ship. He finds Dizzy, throws him overboard, and Dizzy must reach the surface in a series of minigames.
Yeah, you know, pretty much that old family-friendly tale about pirates and wanting to get pearl necklaces for your girlfriend.
Oh yeah, of course, I mean, they can't be having that, they'll get jealous.
How did you fare in this minigame the first time around?
Not too badly. I found the time was quite generous to get all 10 stars that are actually inside this minigame and get to the surface at the same time. It's definitely way more forgiving in the NES version, where they don't have any stars to collect, but also the timer is much, much lower.
I kind of pride myself on my platforming skills most of the time, but I find the platforming a little bit finicky in this, mostly because sometimes you'll need a bubble, and it just won't be there.
Yeah, it kind of takes me back to Sonic the Hedgehog 1 in a way, because you want that bubble, it just doesn't come, and then you drown.
A section it reminds me of, actually, is the Lion King in the Hakuna Matata level, where you're going up the waterfall.
Oh yeah, I vaguely remember that. I didn't play as much Lion King as I would like to have done, but I do see where you're coming from there.
It's not as unrelated as you might think, because I am, of course, referring to the Mega Drive version of the game.
Oh yes, I played the PC version myself.
Now, like Volk said, there are 10 magic stars here, so don't leave until you see the counter read 129.
You'll regret it later, that's for sure.
Now, I forget, can you actually come back here later, like if you go and confront Blackheart again?
I'm not entirely sure if you can, to be honest, so usually it'd be a good idea just to get all the stars here, just in case. It'll save you some heartbreak later on.
And we're done. Welcome one and all to Cara Bay, the beach area of Fantastic Dizzy.
And as your welcome gift, you receive the Aqualung, so you won't drown again.
Yep, well, again implies that I'd leave a death in this playthrough.
No, we can't be having that. And Dizzy, quick dipping his toes in, decides he doesn't like it. Come on, Dizzy.
Well, he's an egg. His natural habitat is not in the water, it's on the plate.
Very true. And we have the pickaxe, we'll be needing that for our underwater expedition as well.
Dynamite? What the? Are we going explosive fishing or something?
Well, it's dynamite. We will need depth charges.
I guess.
And there we go, we are entering the underwater part of Carber Bay. Now, I really like this part of the game because it kind of reminds me of The Little Mermaid in a way, but I think that's partly just because the crabs remind me so much of Sebastian.
Yeah, now, obviously, since this is a water section, your movement and whatnot will be more sluggish, so plan your jumps well in advance, or you end up like me and just crashing into crabs 99% of the time.
Yes, the crabs are dangerous, don't take their smug-looking exterior for granted.
Look at that fucker.
It reminds me of Dylan, actually, in a way.
Does everything remind you of Dylan?
Oh, I don't know. We could just be living out Dylan's dreams here. Now, this jump coming up is actually probably one of the most awkward jumps to make in the game.
I think it's a perspective issue more than anything.
Yeah, there's stuff that you'd expect to be in the background, but it's actually the foreground, and by that I mean those beams at the top.
Ah, yes.
You notice, you jump there and you don't actually ascend at all, so you've got to time it just right, and your reward is a completely empty treasure chest.
That's dickish even by adventure game standards.
I mean, come on, Codemasters, you gotta put something in there at least.
Could have put all the spiders, which are conspicuously absent from this water section.
That's where they were this whole time, they were just luring you into a false sense of security.
Because, you know, as much as I don't want to believe it, there are spiders living underwater.
Well, we got the jellyfish there, which are essentially the spiders of the sea.
Shut up! Fuck the ocean, seriously. Have you seen some of the shit down there in them briny deeps? No thanks.
Yep, Man of War's the size of Ford Fiestas in there. You do not want to go in there.
And Ford Fiesta's the size of Man of War's.
Okay, whichever way around you want to do it. And there we go, we're going to pick up a bag of salt. Now, we need this for flotation purposes, actually, believe it or not.
No, we needed to open a fish and chip shop on the edge of Cara Bay. What do you think?
I think that'll make a very good retirement thing after this whole thing blows over. Now, the bag of salt actually makes more sense than most people would give Dizzy credit for, because, let's face it, nothing in this game has made sense so far. But the salt works in this instance, because salt actually makes the water more dense, and dense water means much easier flotation.
Hang on. Do you mean to tell me that in a game about an anthropomorphic egg which wears boxing gloves and solves puzzles, that I actually learned proper science?
Yes! That is exactly what I'm implying.
Son of a bitch.
I think that blew my mind more than anything else this game has thrown at me so far. Something that makes sense and is factually correct.
Yeah, and that's about all the purpose that empty treasure chest has, just basically a step.
We could have just used that rock we broke apart with a pickaxe, surely. You know, we could have used that as a storage thing, you know. It would be nice in our humble abode back in the Yolkfolk Treehouse.
Pretty much.
And now we're in the abandoned mines, for real this time. And, as you may have noticed, there is a lot of acid.
And this bird right here, this little section, took me so long to do a no-hit run on. Even the FAQ I used specifically pointed out that that is one of the most dickish sections in the game to do.
And there's the dragon popping out his head for a second.
That is the most dull reveal of a dragon I've ever heard, Volk. Put some oomph into it.
Oh god, it's a dragon! Run for your lives!
Too much oomph. Dial down the oomph by about -2 decibels or so.
Oh, hey! It's the dragon!
Now you're just being condescending.
I'm never gonna get it perfect, am I?
No, this is HFC after all.
Yeah, true. It could have been better if the dragon was kept hidden until you actually got to that section, though.
Now, the smart ones amongst you will have figured out that, yes, we will be needing the golden egg to deal with that dragon. We'll be getting that soon enough, but in the meantime, we can go back to the Yolkfolk Treehouse and save Denzel from his icy prison.
Yep, he's about to be put out of his deep freeze. I hope his first question isn't, what year is it?
Yeah, what was he, frozen in like the 70s or something? Whatever year Happy Days was on, really.
Well, that would explain Denzel's personality.
Yeah.
It's also not the first time he's been frozen, actually. Throughout the Dizzy franchise, he actually gets done over by Zaks in this way in a couple of extra occasions.
He's just been typecast at this point.
Yeah, pretty much. It's just like, yeah, Denzel's the cool guy, so yeah, we're just gonna go with this freezing thing and just roll with it. Now, with the acid, this is a very good place to bring the umbrella if you're low on health. There's just so much acid here, it just takes out a lot of the damage you would be taking in that section. So those having problems, definitely take the umbrella with you.
Yeah, and you know those diamonds? I originally thought they were, you know, for quest purposes, because there's a thing in the Dizzy franchise where when you're coming to the end of the game, there's usually like a fetch quest, like you go all around the world in the game to collect like 50 diamonds and so on. So I actively avoided them during my recording process, but no, they basically act like the mines version of the fruits you'll find in the Yolkfolk Treehouse. They just heal you.
Gleaming orange gems, one of your 5 a day. And here we are, we return to the Yolkfolk Treehouse. The spiders are still there, unfortunately, but we gotta teach Denzel the importance of central heating.
Pretty much.
And how do we do that lesson, I hear you ask? By setting his house on fire.
Jesus Christ, Volk. This is a side I never wanted to see from you.
Well, he basically just lights up a hay bale on top of his dining table. I mean, he just leaves it there as well, you'll see in a second. Light the match. Hey, thanks for rescuing me there, Dizzy dude. Here, have these cool flippers, man.
How do you do a thumbs up with a boxing glove? It just looks weird.
Look, Street Fighter's Dudley can drink tea with his boxing gloves. This is nothing.
I look up to that guy.
He is truly a gentleman of our generation.
So instead of giving us money for freeing him from the eternal torment of an icy prison, we get flippers. Thanks, Denzel. I hope your house fucking burns down.
Well, we basically did just leave the hay bale there, so I think that was pretty much to be determined.
It's never addressed, you never go back and put it out, it just stays there, constantly burning.
So let's try and see you be cool now! So the flippers are actually going to be used for the second visit for Carber Bay. They'll actually allow you to get some of the stars we had to miss out on our first trip through, and generally can also get you across that area very, very quickly. You can just skim atop the surface, So if you want to get around the world, you can just skip through Cara Bay very, very quickly.
Pretty much. If you use the flippers and the aqualung in tandem, you can actually have free motion in the water.
And Dizzy engaging in some heroic vandalism in order to get a pair of brass cymbals. Now, how these things are not rusted by now is beyond me.
Well, the Yolkfolk make very nice toys, I guess. They're like dwarves in that regard, although more egg-like.
They're like the secret elves you don't really get to hear about.
Man, the music for the mines and the graveyard sets me on edge.
It really does. It's one of those sections of the game where it's meant to be dark, it's meant to be dreary, there's spiders everywhere.
Yes, there are.
Now, the symbols we won't use until quite later on, because we still need another item before we can use it to wake up Dozy, who is an egg that we haven't really talked about all that much yet.
No, he's like one of the last of the Yolkfolk. In fact, I think he is the last of the Yolkfolk that we're going to be encountering.
Yeah, because the items you get for going towards him actually don't appear until quite near the end of the game, so you don't hear about Dozy until right near the end, and he seems like the reclusive egg. He just lives at the very top of the treehouse, falls asleep, and nobody pays him no heed.
Yeah, pretty much.
Back at Carber Bay, gonna pick up a bit of a tan, say hello to Blackheart the pirate.
So I don't think it's safe for an egg to pick up a tan. You ever heard of the phrase sunny side up?
And this was the skimming across the Cara Bay I was talking about. That really, the flippers really help you get across that section in no time flat.
Pretty much. Grand Dizzy does not need the flippers to do that, because as Volk told us in part 1, gone off eggs cannot sink.
Yep, but unfortunately it meant he could not do the minigame.
I was just thinking we could have used Grand Dizzy as a raft.
Dizzy the oarsman, he's just like going, stroke! Stroke!
No, I think I'm having one.
It's like, God, Grand Dizzy was sinking!
I stole that joke from Hey Arnold.
Quality cartoon. And there's that gold coin I was telling you about in part 2, which starts off the prince's secret.
Ah, yeah, the one that gets you loads and loads of points.
Yep, it basically starts by picking up that gold coin and giving it to the shopkeeper instead of the pygmy cow.
Ah, okay.
So, it's a completely optional item. It almost seems like a red herring in a way, because unless you know of the prince's secret in advance, you don't really know what that item does.
Yeah, and you know, it's money, and in video games especially, we're kind of like hardwired to get loot, to paraphrase Spoonie here. So you'd think that, and like stuff like the golden egg would be the more important items, as opposed to say, I don't know, a pickaxe or a match.
Yeah. And considering the only items of actual currency we've seen is a bag of gold coins and a singular gold coin, it seems a bit weird how it emphasizes on trade more than, you know, trading currency for goods.
Definitely one of the more atmospheric areas in video games from our childhood, really.
Yeah. I mean, I haven't played this game in my childhood, much like you, but I definitely got that, atmosphere that you're talking about, just from playing it.
Okay, now we're going to explore the mines properly.
And lava!
Yeah.
Didn't expect to see that. I mean, with all the acid, I thought it would just be an acid pit and you'd just see the Joker down there going...
The Joker doesn't laugh like that, what the fuck?
No, that's more Wicked Witch of the West, I just realised. Hey, I'm good at some impressions, but not all, alright? Cut me some slack.
And your little egg, too.
Now, what strikes me as odd is, I get the feeling that we could have used the match here, really, but... Nope, we gotta obey the rules of the game and blow it up with a good old-fashioned plunger.
Pretty much, yeah. It's like one of those red herrings that you were talking about.
Or one of those items that seemed like it could have multiple uses.
Exactly, but the match is kind of a one-use thing.
Yep.
This is a classic example of a red herring. It offers you two items. You want to take the golden shamrock like we're doing, because if you take the egg, that dragon's going to get pissed and it's going to torch you to death.
And you do not want that, otherwise, as Tom said before, sunny side up.
Mm-hmm.
Now, something strikes me odd about that entire thing that we just did. Couldn't Dizzy have just painted himself gold, rolled up to the dragon's lair, and just picked up the shamrock that way? I mean, think of it this way. He could have kept the golden egg for himself, sold it for a pretty penny at Keldor, and then he could have used that money to buy an alarm clock for Dozy, some central heating for Denzel, and could have avoided this entire mess by adding proper security measures to Daisy's house.
Yeah.
This whole thing could have been avoided if Dizzy just painted himself gold.
Brothers Dizzy, if you're listening, and you ever making a Kickstarter, make that the plot of the next game.
Yep, Dizzy plots a heist. Italian Job style. Another thing that gets me is that those are inanimate eggs. Why aren't those Yolkfolk?
I think you're fixating too much on this. Short answer, they are dragon eggs, and thus incapable of wearing boxing gloves.
It would have been quite cool though. They could have been like the blinged up Yolkfolk, you know?
Just explain this minigame and get off the subject of golden eggs, you tart.
Alright. So, the Minecart minigame. Basically, this is one of the most unforgiving minigames. If you make one mistake, it's instant death and you lose a life. But the idea is, there's stars to collect, you gotta avoid the obstacles, and there are several exits in the game, but you want to make sure you take the last one. Like right there, you can exit in that area, but you wouldn't really want to because you'll miss out on all the stars.
Now, I believe there's about 20 or so here, so make sure you count as you go along, but obviously make sure to keep your eyes on the road.
There's actually one thing I noticed about this minigame, is that most of the stars are actually to the right side. So as long as you keep going right, and keep an eye on the top of the screen, the chances of you missing any stars are pretty damn low.
You know what this reminds me of? One of the boss stages in Vector Man, it used the same kind of camera angle.
I'm not entirely familiar with Vector Man, actually. That's a series I've been meaning to get into a bit more, because I have the Sega Mega Drive collection on the PS3, and that's, of course, got Vector Man 1 and 2. I heard so many good things about it, but I've never really gotten around to playing it.
It basically takes place on a track while the boss is trying to attack you. I don't know. While I was recording this, and believe me, it took a while, it just put me in mind of it, really.
It certainly sounds similar from what you're describing. So how many takes did this actually take you in the end?
About 3 or so, but it was just the length of the actual Minecart minigame that did it.
It is deceptively lengthy, but I think that might be in part just because there's so many stars in this actual section.
Yeah.
I mean, with 20 you gotta space them out, so that creates quite a long section, and the multiple exits can throw you off as well.
And if you don't think this is challenging, well, don't worry, in a minute it's going to speed up.
Yep, the gradual speed increase kinda hits you right towards the end, so you gotta be really on the ball, but it kinda introduces you to the game, gives you time to get the hang of turning and what have you, and then it speeds it up to the challenge, and it's pretty good timing as far as that speed boost goes.
Look at them putting the damage counter down there, as if you're not going to die in one hit on this bit.
Exactly, it's deceptive. You think, oh, damage counter, that means I can probably take a hit. You get hit by one of the enemies, you lose a life. Damn you. I fell for that so many times when I first came through the game. I was just thinking, okay, so I haven't experienced anything one-hitty yet, and then all of a sudden this section comes along and I'm just thinking, sure, just change the rules, why don't you?
And there you go, that was the Minecart minigame.
Overall, pretty damn fun minigame, but as I said, very unforgiving. We are back in Keldor, so that is actually an alternate route you can take for when you start the game, and this is actually the route I took when playing through, so I did the mine game first, and ended up in Keldor that way.
I think the first exit you take actually, puts you in the mines itself.
Yeah, because you can actually do that minigame multiple times, so I think if you get thrown into one of the earlier exits, it actually teleports you back out, and you can just try it again.
Very useful.
It is, especially when you consider just how many stars there are in that section. Lots of potential things to miss. So this is the lesser known underground section of the graveyard, and this is actually where the end of the Prince's secret happens. When you get the Prince's sign, the little pool over there to your left, if you leave the sign in there, that's where you'll see the purple rain occur. And the trampoline is probably one of the most useless items in the game. It literally serves only to get you out of the area you just fallen into.
Yeah, it's like one of the shortest durations between pickup and usage, I think, is in Fantastic Dizzy.
I certainly haven't seen an item that lasted a shorter time than that thing did. It's just literally, oh, here's a trampoline for you to get out. And that's all it does.
Yeah, this was an empty bucket at first, sorry for any confusion, but I didn't think it was really necessary to show that bit off.
And we will be needing that in our next part, where we'll meet up with another interesting character, which, I'll give you a clue, it will fit with the theme of St. Patrick's Day.
And funnily enough, we are actually recording this on St. Patrick's Day.
Hey, happy drinking, everyone!
If you're drinking today and you're not actually Irish, I am judging you. I am judging you so hard!
You don't want to do that, he is very, very judgmental when he wants to be.
Well, that about covers it for part 3 of Fantastic Dizzy. Please join us next time for what will no doubt be the finale. See you then.
See you then!